Hi, it's Kim from the Shamrock Quilt Studio, and today I wanted to give you a little bit of an update on our Jack's Chain project. This is a scrappy project made in the EPP style, and I'm going to give you a little update a week in to this project just after this. Well, hi and welcome back. I want to talk to you a little bit about Jack's Chain. And the one overarching comment that I want to make is if you start this project, be sure you have a really good picture that you can keep referring to for this project. And I would encourage you to have that picture look something like what you want your project to look like when you're all done. Because what I am finding is, as I'm putting this together, I'm having questions in my mind about why do I put it here, or is this really the right placement? So I find I'm going back to that picture over and over again to make sure I'm doing it right. Now, the question is not whether you put 9 patches around a hexagon in the middle. It's these little triangles on the outside. And how do they go together? How do they fit together? Is that right? Where are the double triangles? Where are the single triangles? And I keep having to refer back to that picture. So make sure you've got something you can look at, either, let's say, on your phone, which is the way I'm doing it, or if you had just a printed piece of paper, that would work too. Now, where are we and what have we done? Okay, first of all, let me show you what my project looks like so far. I think we are almost a week into this project, and for a week, and this being as crazy start off as it has been, I think we're doing pretty good. Now, you'll see this doesn't look really very flat, but that is because some of the paper is still in here and some is not. If you recall, when I started this, I self-drafted the pieces to put it together because the pattern I had and the little templates they provided to me did not appear that they were working well with each other. I was having a lot of problems. So once I self-drafted those pieces and could kind of understand how they went together, then I made a few decisions that kind of took us in another direction, because originally I was going to make the 9 patches on the machine, and I was going to sew this whole thing together with the machine. But what I quickly decided was that that was going to be a whole lot harder than it really needed to be, because this is a great project for EPP, because it allows you to be very precise with how they go together and how you're fitting those different geometric shapes together. So I'm kind of switching gears here. You can see this is switching from a sewing machine piece project to an EPP. But I already had a bunch of 9 patches done. And when I say a bunch, I probably mean a dozen, not 100. So it was easy to make that transition. And what I just did was I just made the 3-inch blocks that I could EPP, those pre-made. Oh, I thought I had one, but I don't. But we'll just use this as an example. To take this 3-inch block and then EPP this 9 patch over it. Pretend that's a 9 patch. So I was able to use the pieces I had already made versus chunking them and starting over. That helped a little bit. Now, once I could really see that this was a viable project, I enjoyed doing it. I had the fabric to do it. Everything was going well. Then that's when I ordered pieces pre-made for me instead of having to cut all of my pieces, because you can imagine there's 9 pieces in this. Then you've got these triangles, and then you've got these huge hexagons. And the hexagons really aren't that big of a problem because you've got a lot of pieces surrounding that. You put that in, you put your 9 patches in your triangles, and you can take that hexagon out. But the triangles and the squares were a big deal. And I think I've got everything here. Now, what I've done, well, let's talk about pieces first. I ordered pre-made pieces from Paper Pieces. I ordered them on a Thursday afternoon, and by Tuesday at lunchtime or shortly after it, I already had them. Great service, really fast, because I was really thinking it was going to be Thursday or Friday before I got it, depending by what they say on their website. So I was really happy to get them Tuesday, and that allowed me to work a little faster on this and really see that it was going to work, and I was going to be able to still incorporate those pieces that I had self-drafted. Mine were close enough to what they needed to be that for the few pieces we had, we could make it work. So what did I order? I ordered 2 of the smaller packs of the 3-inch equilateral triangles. There's 50 in each pack. I don't know that I really needed to, but I wanted to make sure that I had enough. So I'll probably just work with 1 and then hold the other one for another project. And then I did buy 2 packages as well of the 1-inch squares. Now I already had 1 of these packages, so I'm working with 3. And there again, maybe 2 might have been enough, but when you're ordering and you're paying for shipping, I find it's just better to order a little more than you need, especially when there's standard sizes that you can use again. And then I also ordered, that was my original set. I don't have the big hexagons. I don't have those. I think they're downstairs still. I ordered 1 pack of the big hexagons, and this is it right here. So this is the one I self-drafted, and this is the one that came from Paper Pieces. And you can see roughly that they are pretty close. There's one little edge that might be a little bit shorter on one than the other, but close, super close. Close enough that it's going to work for this. I think there are 50 of these in a pack. There might be 25. I don't remember. You know what? Let me check. I think I've got my order right here. Give me just a second. Okay, got it. There are 25. Let me back up because I've given you some wrong numbers. There are 25 of the hexagons in the small pack. And there are 50 of the triangles per pack. There are 150 in the squares. So I got 2 of the squares and 2 of the triangles and 1 pack of the hexagons, which I think is going to be plenty. But like I said, they're $4.50 a pack, so it's really worth it if you think you might need it to go ahead and order it. I didn't see the point in ordering the big bulk packs on these because I just don't need that many, and I didn't want to put that much money into it. My total order ended up being like $24. You know, I've got it right here. Why don't I quit guessing? My order was $22.50 plus tax and shipping. No taxes, just shipping. So $28 total for these. And keep in mind that these are great for this project, but you're going to be able to use these over and over again as long as you don't abuse them. Okay, so what have I done? I've started making the little 9 patches, and this one is one where I have a 1x3 and a 1x3 that I self-drafted along with 3 of the paper pieces, and you can see they fit together nicely. Now, how am I managing my scraps? Clearly, I don't want to sit down and cut 1,000 little tiny squares to make all the pieces. I don't really even know how many I want. I don't know how big this is going to be before I get tired of it and decide that's enough. And usually with EPPs, that's usually the way I lean. I've got a size in mind I'd like it to be, but a lot of times I just get to the point where I've had enough of it. I think it's big enough and I'm ready to finish it up. So what I'm doing is I'm taking like 6 to 8 fabrics at a time, and I'm cutting some strips, maybe 1 foot long by about 1 3/4 inches. That's a little bit bigger than you need, but it's not too small and you don't feel like you're really having to stretch that fabric. So I'm cutting those strips and then getting as many blocks as I can out of that. And then they go into this little box. Let me take some of the other stuff out. I think you can see that. So I've got these 1-inch squares finished here. Now, I started with these colors, and the next time I sat down, I got these colors. So what I'm doing is I'm trying not to use all of this one in the very beginning. And then every time I add another batch of fabrics, I make squares with these, and I make sure that at least one fabric in that 9 patch is out of this first row. And that is allowing me to mix and match my fabrics so that I don't have a bunch that only have this fabric and a bunch that only have this fabric. If I do that, what's going to happen is the colors on there are going to be dependent on what fabrics I chose versus having a randomized batch of colors and fabrics that I'm using. So I hope that as I go through different batches, I'll have all of these and I can get to a point where I'm mostly using the new fabrics, but then I'm adding in from different older batches, and I'm putting even those fabrics in the very beginning in with all of the 9 patches. Because what happens if you're not careful, you can see you get these are the same fabrics. You get them in blocks. And look here, we've got these 2 blocks where we've got 2 of the same fabric in the same spots. We've got this yellow and this black polka dotted. The other 3 are different, but you've got those 2. And then you don't want to put those up next to each other when you're arranging these, so you're going to need to put them a little further apart. So the more fabrics that are similar block to block, the further they've got to go in the finished design. So by truly mixing and matching those colors, you will find that that works best. For example, here we go. This is a block that I think I just finished last night. And this is from the first batch. This was from the first batch. And this was from the first batch. And then I've added 2 others from the second batch. So we've got this mix that right now you shouldn't find another 9 patch in this that is mostly matching to it. You might find one of these other fabrics somewhere. You could find 2 of them, but you're not going to find 3 or more because they've matched in with those. Now you could just throw them all in a bag and pull out one, and just whatever you pull out you put together. And I think that would be fine, as long as you start with a huge variety of fabrics and you work that way. And then along the way, as I start putting them together, as I'm putting a 9 patch into this, I'm looking at where it fits best. Would this one fit best here, where we've got a red and a, I don't think you can see that, here where we've got a red and a yellow, close to a red and a yellow? Or would this one fit best over here, where we don't have any of those fabrics from one block to the next? They're a little bit different. So I'm trying to use that decision-making with each 9 patch I put in. And I'm trying to, when I sit down at night, always make more squares and then always make at least 1 9 patch a night and try to get it on here. I've got probably 3, 4 or 5 of these right now that are made. I just don't think they're a great match to put anywhere right here that I'm ready to put. So I'm going to hold off and make a couple more and then make that decision. And we're just going to go with that. Let me not lose that. That's my needles and my pieces. So I'm really happy, number one, that we're making this work with what we started with. We were able to kind of pivot and incorporate what we already made into this. So far, I'm very happy with the variety of fabrics. There are still a lot of fabrics that I have in my stash I have not touched yet. And I think this process of doing 6 to 8 at a time is a good way to keep the variety in the project. So while you're doing the same task, you're looking at different fabrics, and that's always great. And I have a couple of new fabrics that I haven't done anything with, and it's going to be really nice to cut just one little strip off that and incorporate it into this, kind of preemptively using that fabric in a scrap versus a real new project. But I've got a lot of fabrics. I'm just looking around at some of the things I'm working on. There's lots more variety we are going to be able to add to this. I would love this if it turned out to be big enough to be a quilt for my bed. That's going to be a lot of 9 patches, I'll tell you that. And I've been kind of pre-thinking about the quilting on this, and I think I'm going to go way out of my comfort zone on this one. Hand quilting an EPP project is doable, but there are some challenges to that because the EPP has more seams and it has more areas where you're doubling and tripling up on the layers of fabric at those seams. So it's a little harder to hand quilt an EPP. If it's a small project, you usually can work through that. If I had a queen size quilt that was all EPP and they were 1-inch squares, well, let me tell you what I'm thinking. Right now, I've kind of got it on the back burner that I may try to find someone to machine quilt this for me. And that's really way far out of my comfort zone because I think of things that you create by hand that you want to finish by hand. But I'm just not sure that that's going to be the way we go on that. And if you watched any of my videos, you'll know that I am prone to change my mind. So it could be that by the time we get this done, I've changed my mind a dozen times. But a week in to this project, this is what we have so far. And I'm looking at it here on my little tiny monitor, and I really like the way that looks. I think it's going to give me the overall design that I'm looking for, and I'm really excited about it. It keeps me out of trouble too. And remember that EPP is a portable project. You can take it with you. All I have to take is really that one little box right there. And I'm thinking about moving this to something that closes so it can be portable and I can just snap it closed and have everything I need. A little pair of scissors, a spool of thread, some needles, and enough pieces that I can stay busy. Thanks so much for joining me today. I hope that if you've tried anything like this before and you have any hints you'd like to give me, please leave me a comment and do that. If you like this video, give me a thumbs up and be sure to subscribe to the channel. I hope to see you next week here at the Shamrock Quilt Studio. Bye.